Okay, if you see here, I have done the whole half double crochet all the way through here, but I have not done in the bottom. The reason is, if I do the bottom row half double crochet here, when we reach here, then we have to do the single crochet with the wrong side on the outside, which is not good, because half double crochet wrong side will be good, because when we do the next row we will be seeing this loop. You see there are two loops on the top and the third loop in here, so we can see that on the outside. That will be looking good, but when we do the single crochet on the wrong side, it won't be looking good. So what I'm doing is, I'm stopping here instead of doing the bottom. So, and finally when we do the last row of single crochet, chain 1, do the single crochet, make sure you're doing on the top V, not in the side. You understand? So that we will see the side loop outside. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'll be continuing from here till all the way through the border stitch, one stitch in each, and I won't stop here. I will do one complete round of single crochet till I reach here, so that we will have border, 2 rows of single crochet border at the bottom, which will be uniform. Okay, so continue till the end. I will meet you after this is completed, and we will start the sleeve. Okay, sleeve is just same as what we have done for the bodies. Okay, we'll start that together. All right, see, I have completed the 2 rounds of border, and in the last round I have done in the bottom also in the single crochet all the way through the both. So without even actually working on the collar, we have the collar too. Okay, now we are going to work on the sleeve. I have done the sleeve prior because I just wanted to show how our sleeve will turn out. Okay, we are going to do 10 rounds of half double crochet just like this, but only on the back loop, just like we did here. Okay, so that we can see the ridges in this hand also, sleeve also. And then we are going to work on 5 rounds of cluster stitch, 1 2 3 4 5 rounds of cluster stitch also, and then cluster and a single crochet, cluster and single crochet. You don't have to work on single crochet for this, because since we are working on round, it will be always the right side of the cluster. But in order to maintain the pattern what we have on the body, I have done the single crochets also. And then finally we are going to do 5 rounds of single crochet with the decrease to end. Okay, so now how we are going to join is, join in the underarms, what we have in here. Okay, take the loop, okay, if you were using 2 colors, color A and B, I would suggest you work on color A for the half double crochets and color B for the cluster stitch, or you can do only the color B for the half double crochet and the single crochet and cluster in with the same cluster color, so that it will give you a great appearance. Okay, so now what we are going to do is join here in the, we have 5 stitch in the underarms, right? So I'm going to join in the middle stitch, so that we won't be seeing any of the chain 1 or slip stitch on the either side. Okay, so start from here, this is our middle stitch, and do a chain 1 and a half double crochet. Okay, since we have worked on both the loops of the chain while we are working on the underarms, now we are working on the back bump of the chain. Okay, so since we have started in the middle chain, there will be 3 chain stitches in here, and then you see we have 2 rows and then the chain one. So we are going to work on both the rows, 1 stitch for each row. And then in the chain one, because we don't want extra gap, right? Okay, and then we are going to work 1 stitch in each stitch. If you want, you can start doing half double crochets in the back loop only for this stitches also, but since it's a separate yarn we are joining, I just want it to be more secure. So what I have done is I have done using both the loops when we joined. Okay, so for the first round alone I am doing half double crochet using both the loops. Don't worry if you have either odd number of stitches or even number of stitches, it'll always end up perfectly. So I was having odd number the other side, so I hope I'll be getting the same in here, because it has to end with odd numbers, because we have had 26 stitches in the armhole and the 5 chains plus 2 chain stitches, right? So obviously it will be odd number. If you understand the pattern what we are going to do the sleeve, you can just pause the video and continue 10 rows of half double crochet and 5 rows of cluster and single crochets. But I just wanted to do the first round alone on camera, so that we don't stuck in the chain or the underarm area. Okay, see, I have reached the last stitch. 1 stitch in the chain 1, two stitch in each row, and then we have remaining 2 chains in the underarm, because we have started in the 3rd chain, right? So we have 2 chains more, and finally you can do a slip stitch and start the second round. You don't have to do a slip stitch if you don't want to have the chain 1 here, but anyway it will be in the underarm area, so we don't have to we won't be seeing it on either side, so it's okay either way. Whichever you prefer, you can work like that. Okay, so I am doing chain 1, and then I'll continue this for 10 rounds including the first one, so I'll be doing 9 more rounds of this, and then we'll start the cluster stitch. Okay, now I have done 10 rounds of half double crochet only in the back loop, so I can see the ridges. Now I am going to start the cluster stitch. Okay, so don't worry if you have even number or odd number of stitch, anything we can adjust. Okay, now what I'm going to do is chain 2. This will not be my first stitch, it would be considered as nothing, and I want double crochet in the first stitch, then chain 1. Okay, then skip the second stitch and do a cluster stitch in the third one, just like we did in the body, and chain 1, skip the next stitch and do a cluster in the next one. Now we are working on both the loops, because cluster stitch is a bigger stitch, it won't be holding up securely by one loop. Okay, so we are actually using both the loops. So, cluster, chain 1. I was having 35 stitches, so I will be having 17 cluster stitch and 17 chain 1 space. But again, don't worry about the count or numbers. It's okay if you attain the size, required size. No need to worry about the count. Okay, then chain 1. And again, this cluster stitch is optional. You can always continue the same double crochet format all through the sleeve. It's not mandatory you have to have the cluster stitch, but in order to maintain the pattern of the body in the sleeve, we are having this cluster pattern. But again, it will increase the size faster than the half double crochet, right? So that's another plus. Don't forget to skip a stitch. Okay, most of you might already know what we are doing and you can continue that, but I'm just doing the first round alone on camera just for the beginners. Okay. Chain 1, and cluster, and a chain 1, and a cluster, and a chain 1. Okay, little more. I'll tell you why I am doing this on camera, because the last stitch is a catch here. Okay. Okay. One, two, and 3, chain 1. Okay. 1, 2, and 3, and chain 1. Okay. Here, if you have even number of stitches, you would be having only one stitch to skip. So you can do a slip stitch in the first double crochet. You can always do that, that's nothing wrong. But since I have odd number of stitches, I have 2 stitches left. One I will skip because I have done the single crochet, sorry, because I have done the chain. And in the last stitch, what I'm going to do is I'll do a double crochet and then slip stitch into the first stitch, which makes the sweater little more closer without any unwanted gaps. You see, this 3 stitches, it's not actually 3, it's just 2 with the chain 2 in between. So these 2 stitches will actually be seen as a cluster also, which makes the sweater little more cozier. Okay, so that is what that is why I would recommend to have a odd number of stitches. But if you don't, then don't worry, it's not a mandatory one. Okay, now chain 1, do a single crochet in all the stitches throughout the chain 1 and in the cluster and in the chain 1 and in the cluster, everything. Okay, so this is what we are going to continue, like how we did the body. But again, this single crochet in the sleeve is optional, because since we are working as round, all the cluster stitch will be in the right side. but we are doing single crochet, yes, still, because two reasons. One is in order to maintain the pattern, because we have done single crochet in the bodies, and second thing is, if we don't do the single crochet in here, then each cluster stitch will pull other cluster stitch like this, and it will not be good to see. So that is why we are doing a single crochet and then continue the cluster stitch. Now I have done 1 2 3 4 5 cluster stitch with 1 2 3 4 5 single crochet round. So complete this 10 rounds, and then the last single crochet, which includes the 10th round, and then we'll meet at the end to see these 4 rounds on the decrease of the sleeve. Okay, so I have completed my 5 rounds of single crochet and the cluster stitch. Now we are going to do the decrease in the sleeve for the border. Okay, so I have attached the button because it was keep on rolling, and it was hard, so that's why I have attached the button already. And yeah, when you start, chain 1, single crochet, 1 2 3 4, and in the 5th stitch do a decrease, which means pull up a loop from the next stitch and the next stitch. So 2 stitches have become 1. Okay, so 1, don't worry about the count or anything, we just do the decrease as it goes. 1 2 3 4, and in the 5th and in the 6th stitch do a decrease. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Okay, one, 2 3 4 5 and 6. 1 2 3. Okay, when I have the last 2 stitches, I'll just do the decrease. Okay, and do the slip stitch. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to repeat the same round one more time, but this time it will be 3 stitches instead of 4 stitches, because we are going to decrease the decreased stitch. So 1 1 2 3 and 4. Sorry, 1 2 3 4 and 5 I have decreased. Okay, because for last round we have done 5 and 6, right? So now we are doing 4 and 5. So 1 2 3 and 4 and 5. If you see the 5th stitch, it will be the decreased stitch of the previous round. Okay, so 1 2 3 3, 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So in the last stitch, don't worry, you just, when you have the 2 stitches remaining, you will do the decrease and do a slip stitch. Now if you want, you can complete this one with the last round of single crochet all through the stitches without any decrease, but since it's for a small baby, I'm going to do one more decrease and then do the border round, so that the hand will not be little much more looser. Okay, so again now I'm going to do decrease in 3 and 4. Last round we have done 4 and 5, right? So 1, 2, 3 and 4. The 4th stitch will be the decreased stitch of the previous round. So again 1, 2, 3 and 4. You have to note that since we are doing decrease, the stitch what we have just used will be showing clearly the V. We should not be confused with this as an unused stitch and then start the same stitch. We have to start always in the next stitch. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And in the last we'll have only 3 stitches, so only one stitch will have one single crochet and the remaining 2 will be decreased. And in the final stitch, and in the first stitch you do the slip stitch. Okay, so we have reached the end. Now we'll be doing the last round. I will just do the border round with one stitch in each stitch and I'll complete the sweater. So this is how your sweater will look like. I really like this pattern. It's so cozy, at the same time it won't be having much of suffocation because we have a proper ventilation because of the cluster stitch. Okay, and we actually if you see in the inside, it will be looking like a bubble stitch. So if you want this bulged pattern, you can have this as your right side and attach the button on the inside. And even in the hand also, since we have used only the back loop, this side also will be having the ridges just like the front side, so it will be very good. So I hope you like the video. Please do share your pictures in Ahilo Arts, or tag it in the Instagram at Ahilo Arts. Make sure you subscribe to the channels, share it with your friends, and support us, because your love and support is what is keeping the channel alive. So please do subscribe and please do comment in whatever we are doing, and thank you so much for your love and support. Thank you. Bye.